This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Hi there, and welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler at Regary Financial. Ron Stutz here. We're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement today. And this is a festive time of the year. And Logan, I like that Santa hat you're wearing today.
Yeah, I'm in my full Christmas spirit today.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's just a couple of days away, and it's hard to believe it's finally here because, you know, there's so much anticipation going on and so much music that's been playing for, you know, it seems like months and months, getting ready for the holidays. And speaking of music, we're going to talk about music in just a minute here. But first of all, let me tell everybody how to get in touch with you for a discovery visit. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call for Regary Financial. Two convenient offices, Hammett and Redlands. You can get in touch with Logan and have a conversation with him via Zoom or maybe in one of the convenient offices that's cost-free and obligation-free. 888-823-PLAN. Logan, we have an opportunity here to do some special things on today's show. And I think, this time of the year, music is a big part of things. So I thought about today we might have, the ultimate retirement planning mixtape. You ever put together a mixtape for anybody?
You know what? I would be lying if I said I didn't used to make a mixtape or two. You know, I don't think I ever made them for anybody, but I think it was kind of just for myself.
I thought you might have made one for your wife or something, you know.
No. Nowadays it's like you just send them a playlist off like Spotify or Apple Music. They kind of took away the fun of like burning the CD and doing all the fun stuff back then, you know. But
actually, exactly right. Yeah. Well, I have put together mixtapes like even on cassettes.
Oh, there you go. The good old stuff.
Goes back a few years. But you're right. These days, it's a lot simpler to do all that kind of stuff. But get ready to rock to the rhythms of retirement wisdom in this week's episode, folks. We put together the ultimate retirement planning playlist featuring timeless lyrics that reflect various stages of the planning journey. From setting financial goals to finding purpose in your golden years, this playlist today sets the stage for important discussions about crafting your dream retirement. Now, let's talk about a song for the early stages of retirement planning, where having a dream is a good place to start. Okay. There's one song that comes to mind for me when you talk about having a dream, Imagine by John Lennon.
Great song, right?
Yeah. Expand on that thought if you would.
Yeah, I feel sorry for some of the listeners right now if you don't like music, because we're probably going to talk more about music than retirement planning here. Because me and you are both big music fans. But
exactly.
That song is probably one of my favorite songs, but also one of my favorite songs to hear covered, right? There's a lot of really good covers out there on that song.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to financials, right? I would say on that, what I think of is when you're looking at your retirement plan, you want to make sure you're being a visionary, right? You want to make sure that you're really envisioning what your retirement looks like. What are you going to do every day? What time are you going to wake up, right? What time are you going to go to bed? In an ideal world, what would you be doing, right? Setting goals, I think, is very, very important as well. Talking about what you want to achieve in retirement. Maybe it's, golfing 3 days a week. Maybe it's spending more time with the grandkids, whatever that might be. But really kind of imagining what you're going to be doing throughout your retirement goals and being a dreamer and making sure, number one, that you're putting the plan together early to make sure that those retirement dreams are a reality, right? Because I always joke, it's great to say I'm going to take 5 trips a month to Hawaii, but if our income was only $1,000 a month extra, we're probably not doing that, right? So we want to make sure whatever goals and dreams we're setting, and making sure that they're reachable, but also having those goals and having something to look forward to and really envisioning what your retirement will look like is super important, because I have had some clients where all of a sudden it's time to retire and they didn't really have much of an idea of what they wanted to do. And those first few months or few years can sometimes be a little bit of a struggle of kind of getting going and getting things set up the way that they had wanted to. So to try not to waste some time away, I would highly recommend for those of you that are getting closer, start thinking about that.
Yeah. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Yeah. Some other songs that come to mind for me, it's like Dream On by Aerosmith.
Great song.
Yeah, Time Is on My Side by the Rolling Stones, going back to the 60s.
Good stuff.
Another song, Dream a Little Dream of Me. It's been done by so many people. The one that comes to mind for me is Mamas and the Papas.
Yeah.
A Little Dream of Me. That was actually Mama Cass who sang
It's a great song.
Yeah. Now, another addition to the mixtape here, maybe we'll call this Volume 2. In retirement planning, having a financial professional and your loved ones by your side is crucial. And one song that comes to mind for me is Lean on Me by Bill Withers. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, great song, right? I mean, I think what was one of the big lyrics there? We all need someone to lean on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to sing it, but I didn't want to hurt anybody's ears there.
Well, the idea of this show is to attract listeners and not turn them away.
Yeah, that would. I think a lot of you would turn off your phone or your radio, whatever you're listening on right now, real quick if Logan started singing.
That's why I'm not singing.
Yeah. I've heard you sing a bit on the show, and you've got definitely a better voice than I do, for
I
sure.
don't know about that, but
One of the things, though,
what can we learn about that? From that song.
Yeah, one of the big things right there, I would say, is it's okay to lean on somebody for financial planning and for professional guidance, right? I think one of the biggest things that consulting a financial advisor or maybe an expert in these areas would be is making sure that you have that personalized retirement plan, right? Many of us look at our investments and things like that, and we may be comfortable with certain investments and things like that, but when you look at tying the income plan together, your tax situation, the estate planning, all of those things that are going to be a very big metric and play a big role in your retirement plan, it's okay to use a financial advisor or professional to help guide you through that tricky time zone. That's what a lot of us that specialize in retirement planning, that is where our specialties are, and that's where really our passions are, is creating all of those interesting retirement strategies and things like that can be implemented to your retirement. The other thing would be exploring how your different retirement goals with your current spouse may align, right? I think leaning on each other to make sure that you're balancing out how you envision retirement, how you envision your estate plan, how you want to pass on assets or not pass on assets, and making sure that you're kind of coming to, again, I'm married, so I'll put with quotation marks or my fingers in the air, coming to as close of an agreement as you can, right, in the relationship to where it's balanced out. But I would see those are the few things that I think of right off the bat, Ron.
Okay, let's go to Volume 3. That all makes perfect sense, by the way. You did a good job on that.
Well, good. Thank you.
Songs to remind you that in retirement planning, consistency and patience are key. One song could be by Michael Jackson. I'm not a huge Michael Jackson fan, but there was a song he did called "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough." I guess that would apply, would it not?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I mean, Michael Jackson's one of those people. I think it's kind of hard to deny his fame and success and stuff. He was everywhere. But I'm with you. There's not a whole lot of songs that I like absolutely love. But this is a good song. I think one of the things I would say from that though is really staying the course, right? Importance of maintaining your consistent savings, investing strategies, whatever it might be, but making sure you're keeping on that course as well as waiting for the right time, right? Potential risk associated with retirement or retiring permanently, maybe risk of depleting assets too quickly or not having enough resources to sustain a comfortable retirement lifestyle. I think a lot of those are some things I think of right away on that aspect. A
better song, I think, that applies to this is a song by Journey. At one time, it was the most downloaded song in history. Don't Stop Believing.
You hear that everywhere, right? I always joke, like, it doesn't matter what country you're from, what background you have. Everybody knows that song.
Yeah. Another one is You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need.
Yep. Great song.
So, things to think about. And let's go on to Volume 4 here. Logan Sadler and I putting together mixtapes here for that reply to or refer to retirement planning. Songs that provide reassurance during times of uncertainty in the retirement planning process. One, survival song, I would call it, is, remember the old disco song by Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive?
Yeah, everyone's heard that song, I would think, right? That was still a big one. I hear that everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. What can you make out of that one when it comes to financial planning?
Yeah, first thing I think of, right, is I Will Survive, right? So the first thing I think of is there's going to be a lot of different challenges. One thing I always say is a lot of people have sometimes this misconception of retirement that, well, all of a sudden you're going to work your 30 or 40 years you're going to retire, and then the sun is shining every day and there's no more problems, right? The problem is things still come up, right? You're still going to have those challenges. They might be emotional, they might be family oriented, they might be financially. There's going to be a lot of testing times throughout retirement too, right? Things are a little bit easier because you might not have to deal with work drama or work related stuff. However, you still have financial issues. You still have things going on in the world. You might still have some family things going on. So I think it's important to understand you will survive, right? Stay persistent and stay committed to what it is you're doing, making sure you're planning and making sure your emotional challenges and a lot of those things are covered, making sure you're well diversified and protected from economical downturns and providing more stability to your accounts and things like that. Planning for long-term care, planning for rainy days. I think all of that is still very important, and it will give you the confidence to know that you do have a plan that's built to last and was built to survive.
Hey, I love this category. This mixtape is going to be one of my favorites because there's some other songs that fit into this category, like Landslide by Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Love
Great
that
songs.
song. Also, Don't Worry About a Thing, because every little thing's going to be all right. Three Little Birds by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Yeah.
Great song.
And Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. So,
man, all great songs.
Those all work out well. All right, Volume 5 of the mixtape here, or the 5th mixtape, I should say. You've reached the finish line, but this is only the beginning. Here's some songs to help you navigate the momentous transition into retirement. Mm-hmm. One song that means a lot to me, it became sort of an anthem of the civil rights movement back in the 60s. A Change Is Going to Come by Sam Cooke. And,
great song.
My goodness, a change is going to come when you retire, right?
Yeah. Very well put, right? I mean, I think when we look at your biggest changes, I think, right, is when you're a kid and you move out of the house, you go to college or you start working or whatever. That's a very big change. And then you go through another thing when you get married and maybe have kids and stuff. That's a whole nother change as well, too, right? Yeah. And I think the other thing is the big thing that a lot of people are not aware of is the change of retiring. That is one thing when you look at, I hope you look at how big of an impact that's going to make on your plans and making sure that you're prepared for it, right? You want to make sure you're covering the emotional and change in mindset that you'll have to go through, making sure you're understanding your budgeting and the financial planning, right? Because I think you're looking at how big your commitment's going to be to retirement. A lot of people go, retirement shouldn't be that different, right? Well, here's some of the differences, right? You all of a sudden are a little short 1 month and you go, you know what? I'm going to pick up an extra shift. I'm going to work some overtime, right? I'll take a side job. Whatever industry you're in, there's always sometimes a little bit of ways to make some other money. Well, all of a sudden when you're retired, a lot of those different avenues kind of disappear, right? And now a lot of us might be on a fixed income or pretty close to a fixed income. And so things do change, mindsets change. And I think it's very, very important to plan for that change because like you said, Ron, it is a drastic change for a lot of people. And that's why having a very well put together retirement plan is crucial, right? If you have a plan that's not built to last, you don't want to find out 5 or 10 years into retirement and realize, well, you know what we're doing is not going to work, right? It's one of those things where you want to go into retirement knowing that you have a plan that is built to last the next 20 or 30 years of your lifetime. And you want to make sure you have the right professional and the right team put together to help get you through your retirement. And that is exactly what our firm has been helping people do for over 25 years. And that is what we specialize in. So a lot of you out there that are getting closer to retirement, you saved well, and you're in a position where you're looking at how do I maximize this next journey and how do I prepare for this next journey? Give us a call. And I definitely think you'll get some value even by just coming in for that discovery meeting to see some of the value that our firm could add to you and your family for your upcoming retirement.
I'm going to tell you how you can get in touch with Logan Sadler in just a second here, but I just wanted to mention a couple of quick songs here. Logan, how about Changes by David Bowie? You know that one, right?
Great song.
And if you get together with Logan Sadler, you put together a plan, and you get to retirement, and you can have the kind of lifestyle you want. You could be singing "Celebrate Good Times, Come On," Celebration by Kool and the Gang, and one of my favorite songs of all time by Louis Armstrong, "I See Flowers." Yeah. What a wonderful world. It can be a wonderful world for you.
Yeah, could be.
Call Logan Sadler, have a conversation, a discovery visit, in other words, 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-7526. Your number to call if you'd like to get in touch. You can have a no-cost, no-obligation conversation, either via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the offices, either in Redlands or Hemet. Totally up to you. You can make it happen, but first you have to reach out with a call, 888-823-PLAN. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. We'll have more coming up in just a moment on The Financial Beat.
You're listening to The Financial Beat, striking the right chords in your financial plan.
And the beat goes on. The Financial Beat, ladies and gentlemen, Logan Sadler is here, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, serving you in Southern California. Hey, thanks for listening today. Logan Sadler has all kinds of podcasts out there where you can go and listen to old shows that you may have missed. Maybe you weren't able to listen to last week's show, or a show sometime in the past where we concentrated on some topic that you're interested in, whatever the case may be. And also, YouTube videos are out there, and these are really entertaining and really well done, Logan. How do folks get to those?
Yeah, thank you, Ron. You can head over to the YouTube channel, type in The Financial Beat, and we do a video each week for you guys uploaded there on the channel. Some of them are on Social Security, how to maximize that, what ages might be best for you to take it, or at least give you some further education on that. How much you should have saved by age 60 was one of our most popular ones for a lot of you out there that are planning for retirement and getting closer. We also have a lot of videos on what is a Roth IRA, what is an index annuity, or a lot of different questions that a lot of people have on market risk and things like that. So head over there, click subscribe, like the page, and follow along, because, again, we do videos each week for you there to check out.
Okay, well, it's the holiday season, and of course, I know it's going to be a really exciting time for you having two young kids in the house, Logan. I mean, I'm excited about it, and, I don't know about you, but as much as I love music, I get tired of it by the time Christmas actually arrives, because
yes, I agree.
In some places they start playing it as soon as Halloween's over, which is ridiculous. But
it's true. There's been a lot of Christmas music in the office this year. Started early.
I'm telling you, man. I love some of the old standards, but I love some of the newer stuff as well. So
yeah, I agree.
And get a mix of those. It's kind of fun. But let's talk about Santa Claus. Santa Claus is making a list and checking it twice, and the question is, Logan Sadler, have you been naughty or nice?
I think I've been nice.
I think probably so.
Okay, that's always we always think better of ourselves, I think, right, in most cases. So hopefully I'm right.
I'm going to take the optimistic viewpoint as well and say that I've been nice this year. But
good.
Santa's Naughty or Nice Investment Guide is what we're getting to here. In this festive episode, we're going to sift through a slate full of financial products and strategies to find out which ones deserve a spot in your financial stocking this year and which ones are the proverbial lumps of coal. This will be an educational episode for all investors, whether you've been financially naughty or nice this year. So, Logan, I'm going to ask you about some things here, and you give me your honest opinion on this.
Yeah.
Would it be a naughty or a nice inclusion into the financial stocking?
Okay.
How about indexed annuities?
Yeah. I think those are nice, right? I think for not for everybody, but I think for some people out there, they could be a really, really great addition to the portfolio. Mm-hmm. We don't really dive a lot into specific investments on the show typically, but I would like to overview some of these I think we're going to talk about. A fixed index annuity, for a lot of you that aren't aware of what that is, basically, an index annuity basically is an insurance product that you can purchase to use as an alternative in your investments, right? So, if you have $500,000 and you wanted to utilize maybe bonds or something more secure, an annuity or an index annuity might be a good fit for some of that money. And the nice part about it is a lot of them, how they work. Again, every company draws these up a little bit different. You have all the big companies like, Nationwide, Prudential, a lot of these big companies out there have their own version of how these work. And basically what they are is an investment you put money into. They typically will have a time frame, right? Maybe 5 or 10 years long. They're longer term investments. Some of them do have some liquidity to them. So if you needed to get some money out, they'll typically allow you a percentage, maybe let's say 10% per year, right? So if you had $100,000 in there and after the first year, if you needed to pull some money out, most of them will typically let you take $10,000 out that following year and then 10% each year after that. So you do have some access to them. But the nice part about how they work is a lot of them track indexes, just like the name, right? Index annuity. And what an index is a lot of them track, for example, the S&P, right? So you're putting your money in the S&P 500. It's the top 500 stocks in the United States, basically, and it tracks that index. You're never directly in the index, right? So the nice part about it is a lot of people have heard, oh, well, they have a cap on them or a participation rate. What are those, right? So what a cap or a participation rate is, some of them have, let's say, a cap of 6%, right? So if the S&P did 10% that year during your anniversary, typically it's the year you bought it, the month you bought it to the next year. So let's say we're talking December to December right now. And after that year, if the S&P did 10%, you would make 6, right? Because you had a cap of 6. So that was the most you can make. So 6%, not a bad rate of return in that example. The nice part about it is next year, if the S&P goes down 20%, you don't lose any money, right? A lot of them are principal protected, where if you had $100,000 in there and it went up that 6% in that example, you would make $6,000 in that example, right?
Yeah.
If the S&P went down 20%, you don't lose any money, right? And any interest you earn in those after that year is then locked into the account and you can't lose it. So a lot of clients like having those in their portfolio for a portion of their safe money. The one thing I always tell clients is they're meant to outperform the market. They're not meant to be this all or nothing investment, right? What they're really, really good for is a lot of the bonds and safe money alternatives have not been performing well over the last 5 or 10 years. And a lot of the fixed index annuities can be a really good spot to put some money that you want some decent growth on, but you're not willing to risk it, right? And those could be a good spot, as well as some of them pay out, like we talk about on the show, cash flow for life, right? They pay out income that'll last the rest of your lifetime, kind of like a pension. So every company out there has a little bit different of a variation to this, and we're independent, so I'm not just with one company. So when we do decide to use these, they can look a little bit different depending on the annuity to annuity and the company to company. But in general, that's a lot how the index annuities work, and I just want to take a second to kind of explain the basic settings of how a lot of those work.
Well, basically, I guess the bottom line here is that it's a safe way to invest, right?
Very, very well put. Yeah, like I always say, we categorize money here as far as, risk investments, income investments, and then safe investments. And definitely the annuities are definitely way more on the safe side. And, a lot of our clients, as they're approaching retirement, they're not opposed to having some of their money in the safe side, right? You typically probably don't want all of your money there, but having a good percentage of your money locked in and safe is typically not a bad thing for most people.
We're talking about Santa's naughty or nice investment guide, and Logan is giving us some honest opinions on various tools that you might use here on the Financial Beat. Hey, if you want to get in touch with Logan, have a conversation with him, it's 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. We'll get back to that in just a few minutes here, but we just talked about indexed annuities. How about a risk assessment score? Is that something you want to find in your stocking?
What's funny is yes, especially me being as nerdy as I get with some of this stuff, I would love to find a risk assessment in my stocking. And I think a lot of our clients would too, but they just don't know it, right? And what a risk assessment score really is a lot of you out there have, you got the Vanguard Total Bond Fund, you got a Target Date Fund, you got a couple stocks, maybe you got an annuity, maybe you got a CD, and you got some cash, right? And you're going, overall, what would happen if my account were to go through a 2008 scenario, right? A lot of clients go, well, this is great, Logan, I got a good account, but what would happen if the market crashed this year, tomorrow, 10 years, whenever it does it, right? The nice part is by having a risk assessment score, it'll give you a very, very deep understanding of what would happen, right? You could actually take a look at your current accounts and your overall holdings and see if we were to go through one of those types of recessionary timeframes or depressions, you can kind of see how your portfolio would have reacted. And the best part about these is I love them as kind of like a little forecaster where it allows you to see that storm, right? Like that hurricane that's coming, it allows you to see if that did happen, here's what would happen to your financial house, right? Do you want to make changes to that before the storm comes? Yes or no, right? And it allows us to address that ahead of time and not just all of a sudden the storm's there and we go, well, we had no idea we were going to lose our roof, right? You would have known that by already looking at the risk assessment score. It's not used to scare anybody or tell you risk is bad. As I always say, I have some clients that love risk, and risk is a big part of their portfolio. However, some of us aren't as comfortable with risk, so we need to make sure we're just aware of that. And a risk assessment score is one of the best ways to do that.
Okay, I just want to ask you about one more here. That is an S&P 500 index ETF, exchange-traded. It's easy for me to say, exchange-traded fund. How about that? Is that on the naughty or nice list?
Man, I'm liking all these. I want everything. So those are good, right? I think for a lot of people, again, I don't recommend one investment for everybody or anything like that, but an S&P 500 ETF can sometimes be a very, very good spot to put some money for some people, especially a lot of people that aren't very aware of investing and not wanting to buy individual stocks and things like that. Because the problem with buying individual stocks is you could typically make some more money when things do well. However, it's really, really hard to pick, 5 or 10 stocks that are all winners, right? That gets kind of hard. Anybody that's ever bought some stocks before, you always think you know what you're doing, and then all of a sudden the market goes down and you go, well, I probably didn't know as much as I probably wanted to, right? So the S&P 500 index fund, what those are basically is the S&P 500 is basically the top 500 companies, mainly in the U.S. There's a couple of foreign companies in there now, but for the most part, most of the big companies you've heard of like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, those big companies. So the nice part about the S&P is, I always say, Ron, if you had to pick 10 stocks right now and you had to wait 10 years, would you think those 10 stocks, would you feel very confident that all 10 of those are up?
Ah, boy, yeah, that would be a difficult thing to do for sure.
Right? It would be hard, right? But if I told you were buying the top 500 companies in the United States, would you say in 10 years that would probably be higher than when you bought it?
Overall, yeah, sure.
Probably, right? So it's not, none of that's for sure, but I always say that's the way to explain it. So typically the S&P with the top 500 companies, you just get much more broad diversification. And of course, here at our firm, we're all about keeping fees and costs low. And the nice part about it is most of the index funds out there, the ETFs, exchange traded funds, a lot of those can be typically a lot more low cost than some of the mutual funds out there. So those are three good things that I would like to see in some people's stocking. I don't think any of those are naughty, but again, it just depends on your risk tolerance and your goals, but definitely some good topics there.
Well, we've been talking about Santa's naughty or nice investment guide, and so far, all of them have been nice, but some of the ones that we're going to talk about next may not be so nice. So you ready to tackle some more when we come back, Logan?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is a fun segment, and we'll be back again with another one.
888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler about any of this stuff that we're talking about today. And during this festive holiday season, it's a good time to call the office and arrange a time to have a conversation with Logan. And maybe realistically, you might not end up talking with Logan before the end of the year here because it is kind of a busy time. But go ahead and make the call and set it up. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. You can have a discovery visit with Logan Sadler that is no cost and no obligation. Very easy for you to do. Call 888-823-7526. That's 888-823-PLAN. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. You're listening to The Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz. He's Logan Sadler. We'll be back after this.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on The Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
We are ready to roll again. Another segment of conversation here on The Financial Beat. We're talking about some really interesting stuff here today on the show. During this festive holiday season, we're talking about products and strategies that you favor or tend to find aren't good fits for most people, Logan. And we have some more on the list coming up in just a moment here. But let me tell everybody how you can get in touch with Brigari Financial. First of all, there are 2 convenient offices in Hemet and Redlands. And if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan Sadler, the VP and Chief Investment Officer, all you have to do is call 888-823-PLAN. PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. It's important to know that Logan works with 3 different generations of client families, and many of the clients have been with the firm for more than a quarter of a century. And, of course, Logan specializes in helping people get to and through retirement. One more time, the number to call if you'd like to talk to him, no cost, no obligation, 888-823-PLAN. When we last talked before the break, we were talking about Santa's Naughty or Nice Investment Guide, and we talked about indexed annuities, risk assessment score, S&P 500 exchange-traded funds, and determined from Logan that all those things were positive. But let me ask you about some more here, Logan. How about a fiduciary advisor? I'm thinking that that's something you definitely want to have in your stocking.
Yeah, I would think that would be a benefit for a lot of you out there, if done correctly, right? One thing I'll say, what a fiduciary is basically it's a fun word that a lot of people like to say, but basically what it means is it's an advisor that's there to put your best interest as the client first, right? Meaning they should be very upfront and very hefty with their disclosures and things like that. As far as any investments and recommendations that they're making, they should be letting you know how much they're making, why they're making that money, and also explaining why the investments they're recommending or the plan that they're recommending fits your interest best, right? The problem is out there's a lot of people, not just in the financial world, but you see it in every industry where many people are selling products or things to people that might just be what's best for the salesman, right? And the financial world's very similar, where there's a lot of people out there that try to do the best they can. But however, there's some out there that don't always think that way. And so I think one thing that every person out there when they're interviewing an advisor should make sure that you could tell and make sure that the advisor is talking about why these investments or these plans or these recommendations are a benefit to you, right? And also understand how they get paid. I'm never embarrassed to tell clients if I get a commission by selling this product or if I charge a fee for doing this. It doesn't bother me by disclosing it because that's my job, right? My job is to understand what you're trying to accomplish, but also put you in strategies that are going to help accomplish those goals. And then my other job is to disclose to you how much we make or why we make a fee or how we get paid off those investments. And I think a lot of people out there are okay with their advisor getting paid, right? Nobody out there or any type of industry, I'm okay if my contractor does work for me. I know I'm going to pay him and he's going to make money, right? That's obviously how the goal is. Same with my doctor, same with all of that. However, I think we just want to make sure that they're recommending something that is actually right for them and right for the client, I mean, as far as that goes. And that's exactly what a fiduciary advisor or an advisor that's just really doing their job correctly, that's exactly what they should be doing. And I think that's what a lot of clients and consumers want out there.
I think we've established over a long period of time that you are a financial advisor who has the best interests of your clients at heart. But my one question remaining here, Logan, is how would you fit into the financial stocking hanging over the fireplace? You know,
how would I fit in, or where would that fit in?
How would you fit in?
I don't think I would fit in.
Maybe a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I would need. For those of you guys can't tell on the radio how tall I am, obviously, but I'm about 6'3", so I'm not giant, but I'm also not small, and so it'd have to be a rather big stocking.
He's someone you can look up to, probably. If you're not.
Some 6'3". Of you, I've met with some clients though, man, that are way bigger than me. So yeah, that's funny.
A lot of big people out there. Hey, yes. Another thing I want to ask you about here: retirement index funds. Is that something good to have in your stocking, or perhaps bad?
This is one of the first ones I'll probably say that's good and bad. Okay, so some people out there, what those basically are is when you're looking in your retirement account, you see the Vanguard 2026 fund or the Fidelity 2025 fund or whatever company it is, their 2025 or whatever date it is. Those are called target date funds or retirement index funds. Now, how a lot of those work basically is as you get closer to that time frame, they should be scaling back risk, and by that means they just put more money in bonds. Now, I had a client recently who came in a couple of years ago, and he didn't know what was going on with the market. Things were all over the place. He was about a year away from retirement. He started moving massive amounts of money into some closer target date funds, thinking that was more diversified. However, it just put him more and more in bonds. And the problem was at the time, bonds were having and still kind of are, having a very volatile streak. So he was losing money in his stocks and losing money in his bonds, right? So, and big money in some cases. So I think the big thing is target date funds are really, really good for the younger clients who are starting out and aren't real aren't real savvy with what investments they want to be in or picking and choosing things like that. However, I think for a lot of our retired clients, you typically can get more customization and more things that are a little bit better suited for what this next challenge is going to face. So I think they have some benefit to them, but also I could definitely see why a lot of clients should not be in them depending on their current, their current situation.
Santa's naughty or nice investment guide. Got one more coming up in just a second here, but I wanted to jump in and remind everybody how you can get in touch with Logan Sadler for a discovery visit. 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. This conversation is not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any kind of obligation. Oh boy, we're going to stir up a little controversy here, and this is going to turn, I have a feeling you're going to say some negative things about this particular product. How about variable annuities? Is this something you would put in someone's stocking or no?
Yeah, more often than not, no, right? I would say a lot of variable annuities. And again, I'll start with explaining what a variable annuity is. We talked about index annuities, right? The safety on them and how those work.
Yeah.
What a variable annuity is for the most part, they have very similar terms. Some of them have some tie-up frames. They could be a 1-year product, or 5-year, or 10-year, whatever the time frame is. Some of them have time frames. And basically, what it is, though, instead of having the safety of the index annuity, what they do basically is you buy mutual funds inside of that account, and basically you're in the market up to whatever risk tolerance you pick. There is some extra benefits to them, right? They do have long-term care riders. They can have, basically meaning they could have some long-term care benefits. They could have an income rider where some of them do pay cash flow, some of them for life, but some of them are only for a period certain, meaning they only have a certain amount of years they'll pay that. And they also can have a death benefit. So there is a few bells and whistles you could add on to the variable annuities to make them worthwhile. However, a lot of the expenses, meaning the fees that you'll see in the variable annuity, is what really turns a lot of advisors and a lot of clients off of those, because they typically have an advisory fee, right? You're paying an advisor now to manage funds, which is fine. The problem is then you're paying for an income rider. Then you're paying for a death benefit, and then you could be paying for a long-term care rider, right? And then you have mutual fund costs. So as you can see, they can get rather expensive. A lot of the newer ones are a little bit more lower cost, which are nice. However, some of these older ones I've seen where clients are paying 2, 3, 4% inside of their account, I typically don't think that's what's best for the client. And a lot of the times you might just be better off, if you're being in the market, to just be in the market, right? So it really depends on your situation overall. But however, I typically don't recommend those a whole lot for clients. And that would be on the naughty list, I would say. For the first one, I'll be confident on and say naughty for right now.
Logan, I'm going to say you've done a good job assessing all these things and telling us how you feel about them. And I know that a lot of folks are going to want to call you and get in touch. It's the end of the year here, a good time to make New Year's resolutions. Maybe your New Year's resolution at the top of the list should be, I'm going to get my finances straightened out at the beginning of the year, and have a conversation with Logan Sadler about all that. Logan, I know that we talk about discovery visits here. Why do we call it that? Some folks may be asking that question.
Yeah, the discovery meeting was really established for us to really just get to know each other, right? We're discovering where you're at in your financial plan. Also, you're discovering about us, what it is our firm does, and what our philosophies and strategies are to help our clients achieve their retirement goals. And really, at that discovery meeting, we spend a lot of time just talking about your current situation, what assets you have, your family, your goals, and your overall current situation, and also helping establish where you want to be, right? Where do you want to be from a few years from now? What type of relationship are you looking for out of your advisor? And then also communicating and making sure that we are the right fit. And if we're not, we'll tell you, right? We're not the right fit, and you'll know right off the bat. But the best part about it is it doesn't cost anything. We basically just sit down and go over your situation, and we really show you some of the value that our firm can bring to the table by helping construct that well put together retirement plan and getting your overall physical house in order for your upcoming or your current retirement plan.
Okay, you want a discovery visit? Then all you got to do to get that meeting with Logan Sadler arranged is call 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-7526 to be explicit about it. But just remember the word plan, because that is so important for everybody to have a plan. And financial planning and retirement planning is not a one-size-fits-all process. It's not a generic solution that you get when you talk to Logan Sadler. Everybody's situation is different. That's why it's so important for you to get to know each other. 888-823-PLAN, your number to call for Regary Financial. I'm Ron Stutz. He's Logan Sadler. You're listening to the Financial Beat. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
It's getting to know you time.
You're listening to the Financial Beat, and the beat goes on. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. Remember, Regary has 2 convenient offices in Southern California, Hemet and also Redlands. And Logan, I got an off-the-wall question here for you. I love springing these on you when you have no idea what I'm going to ask you. But
Now I'm nervous.
have you ever, I don't believe it, have you ever disliked something and then changed your mind about it later?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think anybody that hasn't is not open-minded, right? Where
Yeah.
we all had things that like we didn't like at first. And I remember my older brother would do things or be into things, and I'm like, oh, that's lame, you know? And then as you get older, you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool, you know? I'm trying to think, like, I'm thinking of, like, music first off, right? I remember my dad was like, my dad always had, like, you know, some good 80s music on, right? Whether that was like the Van Halen days or Guns N' Roses or whatever. And I remember being like, I don't know. You know, Dad, this is lame, right? Now I'm like, that's all I want to listen to, right? And I'm man enough to admit, you know, hey, you know what? I tell him all the time, like, hey, you had some good taste in music. I just didn't know it, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. If you haven't changed your mind about things like that, then you're not being very open-minded about the situation. That's for sure. Because you know,
and I've done that with sports too, right? Or different things, or athletes, or actors, or whoever. You got to change your opinion on things after a while if it's validated.
Maybe one of these days you might change your mind about Tom Cruise.
Hey, you never know, right? Yeah, I think we talked about that. I don't know if it was this show or last show, but yeah,
I think it was last show. Yeah,
yeah, it was funny. Yeah, yeah. Who knows? Like I said, I'm open to recognizing that at some point.
I do respect the guy for doing his own stunts. I can say that much.
Absolutely, I do too. Like I said, he's been in some good movies. I just don't understand the absolute star-studded. Appreciation he gets. But hey, more power to him. He's doing something right, apparently.
I know what you mean. You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. We'll be right back.
1, 2, 3, 4!
When musicians are performing, they typically need someone to count them into each song. Without that count in, the musicians might be out of sync and the song could fall apart. It's similar to your financial plan. All of your investments must be in sync, working towards your financial goals. Keep listening to the Financial Beat and learn how to make sure that your investments are playing together perfectly.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler, Vice President, Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, is here. And Logan Sadler, of course, and the folks at Regary have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, all those folks who have anything to do with your financial life. And they offer well-rounded guidance in all things financial. You can have a discovery meeting for no cost, no obligation. There are no strings attached at all. You got to call this number to make it happen, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526, 888-823-PLAN. And you can get together with Logan either via Zoom or maybe a visit in one of the offices. Now, we're coming up here on the end of the year. It's a very busy time, and you may not have time right now because you're buying gifts and doing all kinds of crazy things with your family, and that's wonderful, but why not go ahead and take a moment and make that phone call and then get on the calendar for some time at the beginning of the year. Maybe it can be one of your New Year's resolutions, and I would say put that at the top. Again, that number, 888-823-PLAN. Hey, Logan, let's take a few questions here from the mailbag or request line. I'm not sure how these came in, but the first question here is from Jake. Jake is in Beaumont, and Jake has a good question. He says, my company makes contributions to my 401k, but they'll only do it in the form of company stock. I don't want to have too much company stock, so I've just been selling it immediately and then investing in something else. Any reason I shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah, that's actually a good problem to have, right? It's great when the company is putting money into your 401k. But like you said, you definitely want to make sure. I've done some YouTube videos on this in the past, and I've had a lot of conversations on this because one of the big things I've seen a lot of, Jake, is we work with a lot of like Costco employees or a lot of different, Apple or a lot of these bigger companies where sometimes these employees get a lot of their portfolio in company stock, which is not a big problem until it becomes too much, right? Where I've seen clients with up to 90% of their savings in one company stock plan, which it just is that saying, right? Too many eggs in one basket, right? So I think one of the big things I would look at is establishing how much you have in there. Also, it depends on what the stock is, what the performance of it has been. But there might not be too much of a downside of selling it off and rebalancing in other places. I'm not sure. I have to look at your company document plans to see if you're selling it off and getting taxed on it, or if you're just doing it internally in the deferred comp plan. But one of the things I'd look at is the tax liability and also what stock it is. So it depends on the company. If it's a good long performer, it might be okay to hold some of that. But again, you want to always keep that rebalancing in place, where if you have too much in one position, it's definitely worth rebalancing and looking elsewhere. But I think you're on the right train of thought there, but I'd want to crunch some numbers and look overall of what the percentages are and what the company is.
Hey, Jake, thank you very much for the question. And again, follow up with a phone call and talk more about this with Logan Sadler. Give him some more details. 888-823-PLAN. Sam says, I have a rental property that gives me some nice income, but it also gives me a lot of headaches. What kind of return should I be getting from something like that to make it worth all these headaches?
That's a great question. Thanks for writing in, Sam. We appreciate it. The thing with real estate is a lot of advisors will get on here and bag real estate and say you should sell all your homes and invest all the money with them and all that fun stuff, right? I don't think real estate's a bad asset class. Obviously, I'm a numbers guy, and it's hard to argue against what real estate has done over the period of time. I always say, when you look at the stock market and you look at the real estate market, I'd say both those are probably two of the better strategies to invest and build wealth and, really over a long period of time. The one thing I would say with real estate that kind of turns some people off, especially as they get older, is the headaches, right? Or I don't want to be a landlord anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I see a lot of clients that aren't necessarily building wealth through real estate in retirement. A lot of the times they're offloading real estate or doing tax planning strategies and things like that with it, because it's just at a point in time where they just maybe don't want to deal with the headaches for whatever amount of money they're getting. To answer your question, I don't have an exact number. Like, I'm not going to say, it's an 8% return or a 5% return, because sometimes no return is worth the headache, right? It really, to me, depends on if you like being a landlord, if it's a good investment and it's something you want to do, I would keep doing it, right? I think it's a good spot, stay as is. If it's one of those things where you feel like you're not making enough money, it's too much of a headache and you just don't want to do it anymore, then it might be a time to maybe sell that house and look at other properties or other types of solutions where you could dump some of that money in. That might be a little bit more stress-free. So I think it really depends on your situation, Sam, and I'd love to dive further in that in a discovery meeting to go through kind of more of what you're feeling, what the actual numbers are, to really give you a justification on which way you might want to go.
Sam, you want to follow this up with a phone call? It's 888-823-PLAN. Sit down and talk with Logan about all of this in much more detail. Some folks just don't want to be a landlord at all, yep. And some folks have done it, and they're just not geared up to do it many more years. It's a difficult thing to do, for sure.
Yeah.
Next question here is from Billy in Lake Elsinore. And Billy says, Logan, I just found out that I can qualify for a much bigger mortgage than I ever anticipated. But common sense is telling me that maybe I shouldn't necessarily buy the most expensive house that I can qualify for. How do you guide people on this kind of a question?
Yeah, it's a tough one to go through, right? I think because a lot of times it's our home, right? People love to buy homes. They love to buy big homes, and we like to buy homes we could sometimes grow into. However, you don't typically want to go, if the max you can qualify for is $800,000, you probably don't want to go over $800,000, right? Or necessarily even to the top of that, because you don't want the mortgage to be too much of your income. I see a lot of people out there that are house poor, as we call it, right? Or house broke. And it's one of those things it's very easy for a lot of us to qualify for homes. However, if we're actually including our overall budget, we probably wouldn't qualify for that home, right? When you look at a lot of the home loans, they're not really justifying how much do you spend on gas, how much is your utilities going to be versus this house versus the house you have, right? There's a lot of those variations that I think you got to look at. when you're qualifying for homes, and really making sure you're not getting into a situation that might be a little bit too much of a bite for you to swallow, right? And so I think looking at your overall income, before anybody buys a house, I always think it's a great time to go through your actual budget. Look at, okay, well, they're saying I could afford $5,000 a month mortgage. However, when I add in all my bills, utilities, and all that, I probably wouldn't make it, right? So you really want to look at all those numbers and make sure it's a real mathematically smart decision before jumping on it.
I'm sure you'd say the same thing, but I know a lot of folks out there who, they live in a big, really impressive-looking house, and, we don't have any idea how poor they really are and how they're struggling to make those payments. So
it's true. It's very true. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Mary says, I've heard that you should set a goal to save 15% of your income toward retirement. This seems incredibly daunting and, quite frankly, impossible for me. Is it really necessary to save that much?
Yeah. The one thing I always say, a great question, Mary, by the way, like I was saying in that earlier segment, I always say it's anywhere from 10 to 20% is a really good savings rate. Now, for some of us, depending on current bills or income or stage of life, it might be harder to reach those numbers, right? I have some people where maybe you're a single mom or a single dad, your kids are in college, you're helping them out with that. You have another kid that's going to school, so you're paying for sports, and you have all these other bills that are adding on. So maybe you can only save 10% of your income, right? I think it's really important to be saving something. And one thing I always like to point out is one thing an advisor can do is really forecast, well, if we stayed at this savings rate, here's how much you'd have for retirement, and here's what your retirement would look like, right? I always say it's not really just based off of today's numbers, but what are you saving for, right? You're saving for probably for retirement. And so really understanding that, saving $100 a month for retirement probably isn't going to build you up the nest egg you're going to need in retirement, right? You're probably going to need to be putting away more than that. So I think I kind of like to reverse engineer it that way, Ron, and say, okay, what do we want our retirement to look like? Well, I would like I'd like $10,000 a month. I want to travel. I enjoy, I enjoy long trips. I enjoy spending time with the grandkids. And like I said, I might buy another house in retirement as well, too, for a vacation home. Well, guess what? We're able to reverse engineer that and say, okay, well, you're going to need $1 million or $2 million or $100,000 or whatever your retirement looks like. And then that could tell us how much should we be saving now to achieve those goals and if it's even doable, rather than just saying, hey, save a percentage of your income.
One more question today, Logan, to tackle. It's from Gwen in Upland. And Gwen says, I have a whole life insurance policy that's very expensive, so I'm thinking about canceling it and getting a much cheaper term policy. I had breast cancer almost 10 years ago, but that hasn't been a problem for a while. So I don't expect that to present any problems with the new policy. Any reason I shouldn't go ahead and terminate the whole life policy and use the cash value that's built up for something else?
Yeah, great question, Gwen. One of the first things I always recommend with life insurance is you really, really want to take a look, because life insurance is never cheaper than it is today or than it was when you got it back then, right? So especially whole life. So one of the values of whole life is, depending on your age, Gwen, the nice part about this is this policy would be in force your whole life as long as premiums were made and cash value was kept up. There would basically be a policy there for you to leave behind. Term would be great. However, if you're only going to buy a 10-year term and you're 50, that only gets you to 60, right? So it doesn't really cover you for a long period of time. So I'd really want to evaluate your overall insurance needs and see how much insurance you need, how long you need it for, and also what the cost of the new coverage would be, right? Because sometimes if you bought that whole life policy 30 years ago and now you're going to buy a term, believe it or not, that whole life policy might have been cheaper, especially with some of those health concerns you had mentioned. So what I'd want to do is really break down your overall situation, run through some of the different pros and cons of the different insurances, as well as seeing how much insurance you need. And we would do all of that before canceling the current policy, right? Never cancel a current policy until the other one that you're replacing it with is in force. So definitely give us a call. I'd love to run through some of the numbers with you and help kind of build out this conversation and this plan, because there might be some benefits to doing that one versus the other, but also we want to look at a few things as far as duration of the coverage, the amount of the coverage, and also what the new coverage is going to look like before we cancel anything or take any cash value out.
I'm glad you had the opportunity to talk about that due to good questions today from Gwen and also Jake. and a lot of ground to cover. If you have some basic questions you'd like to ask Logan Sadler, I'm going to give you the number in just a second so you can arrange a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. You discover things about him. He discovers things about you. But Logan, what are the first things that you're going to talk about when you get somebody together with you on a Zoom call or in your office?
Yeah, at that discovery meeting, one of the best things we always like to talk about is you, right? We like to talk about your current situation, your family, your goals, but also your concerns, right? A lot of people, when it comes to financial planning, especially retirement planning, there is so many things going through their mind as far as what obstacles that are going to present themselves as far as creating income that's going to last the rest of their life, market volatility, current taxes, future taxes, long-term care, all of those big things. And we go through in our discovery meeting some of our strategies and solutions that we use that might be able to help combat that and really help give you that peace of mind. And after all, a lot of clients, when they're coming to us, that's really why they're using an advisor and coming for that discovery meeting, is they want to make sure that they have some peace of mind when it comes to building out their retirement plan. That's exactly what our firm is here to help offer. And it all starts with that discovery meeting.
888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. I have said that number so many times that I sometimes say it in my sleep, according to my wife. So, it is so important, though, because it is your first way to get in touch with Logan Sadler, 888-823-PLAN. If you want to find out more about Logan Sadler and the folks at Regary Financial, go to financialbeatradio.com, financialbeatradio.com, and listen to the show every time we're on. We'll have another show coming up for you next week, 888-823-PLAN. Logan, I know you're going to echo my comments here, but I wanted to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hope you get a lot of time to spend with your family, and hope it's a great season for you.
Yeah, like you said, Ron, I appreciate everybody. Hope you have a great holiday season, and we'll be back here again next year with another year of the Financial Beat, and we're looking forward to it.
Regary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.